All right, let's look at then the third one here, C, when we have y equals cos 1/2 theta. So the b value is 1/2. The formula, remember, is 2 pi divided by b. So I'm going to plug in 2 pi divided by 1/2. So that means 2 pi times 2 over 1. The period is 4 pi. Now I'm going to divide my period. So 4 pi divided by 4 is going to be pi. And the reason I'm doing that is that's going to tell me how far apart all the points are from my start point. So they're pi apart. So let's think about that on the scale. Things seem to kind of go nicely when I have 1, 2, 3, 4 points. So if they're pi apart, I'm going to count every second square is pi. That means this would be pi by 2, but I don't necessarily need to label. It's not really going to help me. So we'll just count pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. So normally I have pi by 2 here, but I'm adjusting my scale to make this easier to graph. So I'm going to do the same with the negative values on the x graph. Or sorry, I should call it theta. Excuse me. The x-coordinate x-axis here would actually be the theta axis now. Whoops, I wrote 2 twice. So that should be a negative 3 pi, negative 4 pi. I want to keep my scale here on the y-axis of 1 and negative 1. So recall, cosine starts at that maxima. We're in Canada, and we want to go pi apart. So according to my scale, or my scale here, pi is every 2 squares. So I'm going to draw this every 2 squares apart. Still need arrowheads at the end here because it's giving not a specific domain, so it would continue in both directions. You'd have xe reals as your, or sorry, theta e reals in this question as your domain. And there we have it. All right, so if you take a look here from a max to a max, for example, this full distance right here is 1 period, and that's a distance of 4 pi. Now, at a quick glance, I want to talk about how important scales are. At a quick glance, if you look back at your A, I just have A here on another booklet. This is what we graphed in A first. If you take a look at a quick glance, that curve looks identical, but that's because the scale was different. It was from 0 to 2 pi on this one because I counted every 2 squares as pi by 2. So I realized at a quick glance the picture's identical, but it is a different graph because the scale is now 0 to 4 pi. So it's very important that you're very clear on your scales. Without a scale along here, I can't tell if you've graphed the correct period using the b value. Little summary for us here. The summary for the period is the horizontal stretched by a factor of 1 over b still. So transformations is still true. So this would still be a horizontal stretch by a factor of 2. And that's why it was pulled out this way. The distance of one repeating pattern happened between 0 and 4 pi as opposed to 0 and 2 pi. We tend to not use that language. It's much easier to think of just the word period. We use this formula, remember, if it's 360, you would use 360 over the b value. And then to help us plot the points, we divide the period by 4 to determine how far apart the points are.